Hi, this is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman, and today we're going to be talking about seeing your birthday numbers everywhere. I went through this a couple of years ago, and I will say it just kind of seemed a little creepy because every time I turned around, I was seeing my birthday over and over and over again. So I found this great article about it, so I thought I'd kind of explain it because there's some things that I agree with it, and then there's some things that I really don't. So let's get into all of this. That's right. Let's talk about your birthday number. I know on any clock you can find your birthday on there at least twice a day. That's just normal. But what I was seeing is I was seeing my birthday number like on my dry cleaning tag. I was seeing it on receipts. I was seeing it on the mileage of my truck. I'm saying, like, over and over again. And I will say sometimes it was like 3 and 4 and 5 times a day. And I was like, what the heck? I keep seeing my birthday numbers like flying at you. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is kind of like intense a little bit. So it's kind of like, what am I seeing? Like, what am I kind of going through? Kind of like, what is it that I need to know? What is it that I needed to know? So that was kind of like, why am I seeing it everywhere? And kind of like, what is the message with it? So I found an article, like I said, I want to say a while back, and I read it and I was like, some of it I agreed with and some of it I didn't. So I'm going to talk about all of what I liked and what I didn't like. So kind of, a lot of times when people see numbers like this, just like any angel number that you see, there's a message to it. And I will say, if you see it one time, it's not a big deal. If you see it twice, like, okay, now you might be like keeping an eye on it, but not until you see it like 3 times in a short period of time, like within a day or two or 48 hours from it. It's like, okay, now it's kind of like, okay, heads up, we've got to be on alert. Like, something's coming in with you. And one of the things that I found is kind of like, since you're seeing the number, it's kind of talking about you specifically. Some of the articles I found were kind of like talking about other people or kind of what they needed to know, and I was like, I don't know about all that. So let's talk about some of the things that this could be giving you a message about. I'll say first one is kind of trust that you're being supported. If you're seeing this, that number doesn't show up that randomly. Does that make sense? It's kind of like, trust that you're getting this message for a reason. Trust that it's kind of usually a sign of you're going through a transformation, or that you are being guided by like your angels and guides to kind of go through a transformation at some point. Sometimes you may feel kind of like insecure about what's changing or happening, because it might happen like slowly for a little bit and then really, really fast and then kind of really, really slow. So kind of like just trust it. Once you start seeing it multiple times, like, be aware that there are some changes in there, and kind of the easier way to do it is kind of letting you loosen up and kind of like, okay, I know there's some changes coming, let's step on this, let's kind of deal with this one thing at a time. So that's kind of one of those things, is just being aware and kind of expecting more angels to be around you, expecting different things to kind of change or fall apart. I had so many times literally during that time frame that people would cancel at the last minute, change their plan, something happened, and I was kind of like, okay, this is really strange. Like, I'm having more cancellations for like a week, and I realized it was kind of pushing me to have some time alone and have some more meditation time. So I was kind of like, okay, we can deal with that answer. And then also there were times that like I was having like more people jump on my calendar, so it was time to kind of like really be busy and not really fret or worry about what was coming up. So kind of like one of those interesting energies. Trust that you're being supported however your day falls, or your couple of weeks that you see this. Let it be okay. Kind of be more chill about it. Kind of relax a little bit. The next one is be curious. Welcome the change. Welcome the change is part of it. Like, be curious about the change and be aware of it, but don't be so like frightened of it or anything else. a lot of times, like, people think that like changes are scary. We change constantly. We may not feel like we change constantly. We do have some constants in our life, but I guarantee you there are a lot of changes all the time. So it's kind of like, just accept that this is the way it is. Kind of, if you have fear come up, let your angels and guides, like, okay, I'm having a lot of fear come up. I'm not sure why this is coming up, or this is I'm being triggered on this part. So hopefully they can kind of help smooth things out a little bit, or kind of like help you work through this a little bit easier, and kind of getting ready for that that transition, kind of that change coming up. The next one is kind of like, be present, be in the current moment. A lot of times, because I have my own business and I'm doing things ahead of time, like I need to be doing like future casting, or what am I doing, or kind of like, what do I need to do next? And that can be constantly thinking of like ahead of time. And that can be really hard to kind of stay in the present moment. Like, what am I doing like right now? And so this can be even like during a meditation, like connect my energy to the right now, grounding it in the right now, can be a little bit easier, and kind of being present moment. And a lot of times what I found is during this time frame, like with my friends and family, I was kind of like always kind of still going into the future, kind of like going ahead, like, what are we going to do tomorrow? What are we going to do next week, next month, next year, da 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 da. And a lot of times, like when I kind of like downshifted and kind of just relaxed and kind of be in the present moment, and kind of like, how are you doing today? How is your life today? Or how is this happening? It seemed to really relax and kind of chill me out a little bit more. So that was kind of like, ta-da! It's one of those things. Like, those are the top three for me. And I will tell you that usually it's when you kind of feel it, it's kind of like the major ones are really, you are going to be going through like a rebirth of some point. And so kind of when we go through a rebirth, we do have to kind of go through a death in a way. So there may be a lot of people that kind of move out of your life for a period of time, or kind of push back in a way, and you're kind of like, okay, maybe this isn't the right person to be around. When we go through that new part, it's one of those, we kind of go through the death, and then we kind of go into the new things that are coming around us. And this can be an internal transformation, kind of like our beliefs, like our perspective, our values, kind of like renegotiating those, or kind of like, oh, is that mine, or did I pick that up from someone else? Those can be really amazing ones. Some of it can be like an external change, like I want to wear dresses instead of shorts, or I want to wear pants instead of this. And it can be like this external kind of like, I'm ready to kind of dress up my outfit, or I'm ready to do this a little bit differently, or maybe I'm ready for a new haircut or a new something. But it's all about that new experience and that new transformation coming in for you. And I will say that when things come up like that, it's one of those, it is a great time to really focus on like, what are the inner messages, kind of like that intuition coming up for you. Kind of the next major one is that there's going to be an end of a chapter and a beginning, new chapter. And that's kind of like a little bit differently, like there could be something coming to an end. For me, it was one of those, when I had it a couple of years ago, there were some friendships that were coming to a close, and some of them I was kind of like really, like, I'm really sad that this is coming to a close. But it's one of those, there were some that I was kind of like, okay, I don't think we're kind of in balance anymore. This isn't working for both of us. So it was kind of like that heads up of kind of like, there are some changes coming, there are some energy changes coming, and it's just kind of one of those, like, we kind of outgrew each other, or grew apart from each other, and it was kind of like time to let the rest of that relationship go. So that was kind of like that new chapter. But usually when you have a new chapter, you have that old chapter, and then you kind of open up into the new chapter. And there can be a lot of self-doubt, because a lot of times, like, the relationships have kind of like nurtured us in some ways. They have kind of helped us kind of find like overcome fears, or find like our strength inside of us. So that can be like, okay, now I'm getting rid of all this support system. And just know that when you do, it's that old chapter, and then the new chapter starts, and you get like new energy, new things coming in. So it's like, yes, I can do this, I can do all of these things. And that is one of those amazing energies for us to work through. Kind of the next one is kind of celebrate the changes. Celebrate every little change that you're going through, and kind of note when it happens. To me, there were a lot of changes, and it wasn't even really around my birthday that these were all coming in, but there were a lot of little changes that were coming in, and kind of seeing like, old things pass, but kind of like those new chapters, those new starts of things. And I, for myself, was like, really like, I'm excited to see all of this. I am really excited to see all of these major changes, all of this stuff coming in, and kind of really reflecting of like what my life used to be like a month ago, a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, even going all the way back to my childhood, kind of like, wow, the changes that I've gone through, the upgrades that I've gone through. And I think that was kind of really the wow, the celebration, like, whoosh, this is amazing. Because for me, there were a lot of things that I hadn't really started to appreciate in my life. I grew up in a very chaotic situation, so it's one of those like having a very calm, peaceful house. Not what I'm used to, not what I'm accustomed to. It's one of those, and so just being able to walk into a house and be relaxed and feel easy about it. But it's one of those, like, those are some of the changes that I've had, but I didn't realize how much I appreciated that change until I started to see like my birthday numbers and kind of like, what is this change? What is this change coming down? And I really got a great time to kind of slow down a little bit and really amplify those celebrations of like, wow, literally the life I have now is something that I never could have imagined growing up. It's one of those, like I said, I grew up in a very chaotic situation, a lot of chaos going along, and now it's one of those like, oh my gosh, I live a peaceful life. I have a great family. I have a great husband. I have a great dog. She's a little silly, but everybody loves Miss Sadie. And that was kind of the things that was kind of reflecting on the steps that I've gone through on my transformation to kind of like where I am today. And your birthday sometimes comes up like that for you, but this was kind of an extra special like little kick of like, wow, so many changes so quickly of like old stuff coming into new things and kind of that new energy around it. So I was kind of like, yay, awesome. So let's do some angel cards and get us a little bit deeper insight into seeing your birthday numbers. And I guarantee you, when you start seeing them, you'll be like, oh my goodness, they're everywhere. The first card is body care. This is about taking care of you and kind of taking care of what is coming up for you. And like I said, sometimes people get really like anxious and kind of like scared as a lot of changes come in. It does not mean that it's a bad thing. It's one of those, allow that change to come in and celebrate the change can be really, really, really amazing. The next one is retreat. Because retreating is kind of giving you a little bit of a chance. Like I said, when I had appointments just canceling left and right, I was like, wow, this is really interesting. I'm not used to all these cancellations all at once. Occasionally it happens, but I was like, this is kind of one of those, like a whole bunch of changes in a short period of time. That was odd, but it gave me that retreat time to kind of take a look at what was going on and kind of like where I needed to change or kind of look at things and kind of like see things differently than I had in the past. Romance. I think this is one of those, like, you get to kind of fall back in love with you. And I think most people do that around their birthdays. Like, we start to celebrate our birthday and we kind of feel special and that sort of thing. And we feel the love from our families. But really, part of that is kind of feeling the romance in you. Are you loving you? Are you loving the changes that you've gone through? Look at your life in a different perspective and see everything that you've learned, everything that you've gone through in your life, and seeing this differently. Our last one is signs. Isn't that appropriate? They are definite signs that things are changing and modifying in our world, and that is an amazing thing for all of us to accept, all of us to really accept those changes that are coming in, and just know that there are signs that this is the next thing to do, this is the next place to go, this is the next one coming in. And take time to not only that, but kind of reflect a little bit and kind of take some time to retreat and kind of like, wow, think about all the things that you've gone through in your life and kind of those changes and how they are amazing things to really celebrate and emphasize. I thank you so much for joining me today, and I know that we'll be talking again soon.